Hello and welcome. My name is Dr. Divi, and I'm super excited you're here for the podcast on it's 5 steps to dealing with triggers. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to have so much fun. Let's take a minute, like we always do, and close our eyes. If you're driving, of course, you will not. We'll go and close your eyes and just take a few breaths. If you can, put the hands at the base of the diaphragm, the base of the ribs, and just breathe so that the inhale, your hands expand, and on the exhale, the hands collapse. Just allowing yourself to be still and quiet. Beautiful. On my podcast, The Shift Happens, what I try to do is introduce topics that I find very aligned to. I always tell you what I'm up to in my business. And today's topic about dealing with triggers is actually a workshop I've got coming up on June 20th for in-person here in Vancouver. I'm running a Zoom one as well on June 27th. So I'd love to have you join me for either. But this is more of an introduction to the topic to give you an idea. I've got a beautiful, beautiful PowerPoint as well. So let me pull that up. Again, if you're driving, you don't need to watch this. If you're up for a walk, you don't need to watch this. But for some people, it really helps them to see as I type. So let's get started today. Thank you again so much for being here. So what's a trigger? A trigger is anything that takes us from 0 to 100. So let us get going here. So let me tell you about who I am, especially if it's your first time listening. My background is I'm a physician. I graduated quite young, and I became an intuitive spiritual teacher over the last decade and a half. I've discovered that healing the body is not just through the physiotherapy and the medications, and most of us nowadays know that, but it's through the mind, the emotions, the heart. And that's why I use intuition, spiritual universal laws to help people. So why have I chosen the topic of triggers is because it's one thing that takes out of our center. In all of the healing work I find that we heal through the heart. And that's what we're going to focus on today. So what is a trigger? A trigger is anything that takes us from 0 to 100. It's a pattern that keeps repeating. We often respond in a way that we don't want to respond, and we know we don't want to respond that way. We don't know how to stop it, and we want to change it desperately. A result of a trigger is that we often feel stuck. The pattern keeps happening. We might play the avoidance game. We're like, I could never see that person. I can't go on social media. I need to block that person from my life. We might get angry. We might blame. But all we know is we keep getting trapped in the same story over and over again. It might be the same marriage story. It might be the same bank account story. It might be the same boss story. But we start to realize, maybe not the first time, but after the third, fourth, 10th time, that it's the same emotional response in our body. And we just feel stuck and trapped. And people get tired of hearing us and we're confused and we just feel awful. A trigger definition is any situation, a word, a behavior, a memory, or a sensation that activates a strong physical or emotional response in you. And that response is typically associated with the past. And we'll be talking about that. Any fear, any wound, any unresolved experience. Some of us know this and some of us don't. Some of us only think the trigger is that husband, that boss, that mother, that father. And I'm here to take you into a deeper aspect of healing triggers, but also take you into deeply understanding that a trigger is actually our biggest gift. But we'll get there. So whenever I teach, I try to come up with an acronym that'll help you. So I've got 5 steps. SENTS. So sense. SENTS. Spirit, ego, nervous system, take a breath in, tools, and S being spirit, back to spirit. Again, S standing for spirit, E standing for the ego, N is the nervous system, T is take a breath and tools, and S is back to spirit. So I'm going to hit stop share for a minute. So in detail today, I'll be talking about spirit, ego, nervous system. We'll talk a bit about the tools, and the tools will take us back to spirit. If you want to learn more about the tools, all of that taking a breath, I invite you to join me for any of the workshops that you heard I have coming up on the 20th or 27th, or continue to follow me or reach out for a one-to-one or some of my group work. You will be amazed that the more tools you have, the better. Let's talk about the spirit and ego first. If you've listened to some of my other podcasts, you probably heard me teach it before. The theory is, and not even just the theory, but all spiritual work revolves around the idea that we are spirit. What does that mean? We are love. What does that mean? My true essence is love. Cool. And it always feels good when we think about that. The E represents the ego. The ego is only the part of the mind that has forgotten that I am love. And if I want to have any joy, any abundance, any peace in my life, I'm being invited to work with the ego thought systems and bring them back to spirit. And that's the fundamental work of what I teach people. What is N? N is our nervous system. So what happens when we're younger is the ego creates many stories. Maybe for you, the ego created a story that you were abandoned, or you're rejected, or you're not enough. And maybe you don't know what those stories are, which is fine. Those stories of the ego that create the fight, flight, freeze in your body get trapped in the nervous system. And it's only because they're trapped in the nervous system that you get triggered and respond from 0 to 100. And it's actually that simple. But the reason you're getting triggered is because the adult trigger is reminding you something of your childhood. There is no one that has a perfect childhood, not even my own kid. I say that as a joke. No one had a perfect childhood because the brain of a child is not meant to have a perfect childhood. It just isn't. So we all have traumas stored in our nervous system. And when we're triggered, what happens is there's a trauma from childhood that's being triggered by your boss, your friend, your boyfriend, whatever. As a listener, you may already know this, or this may be brand new to you. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you know this, because trust me, the tools are still needed. As a person who does this professionally, I still get triggered. But I practice my tools every single day. And the more I practice them, the less triggered I get. And the best thing is when you experience something that you normally get triggered and you're not, then you know the work is working. So again, spirit, ego, nervous system, and now we're going to jump into tools in a second, but I want to pull up my slides so you can understand the nervous system a bit better. Okay. So again, we got spirit, unconditional love, that's in you. The ego, the party that forgot you were love. And I didn't spend a lot of time on spirit, but if you come hang out with me on the 20th or 27th, or listen to any of my webinars, or join my groups, we'll talk about spirit so much. Let's spend more time about the nervous system. Then we'll spend some time talking about taking a breath and some tools. And that always takes us back to spirit. Let's talk about the nervous system for a second. Each of us have an individually patterned nervous system. Each of us. Like I said, they're childhood wounds. No one gets away without it. Or they're ancestral, your moms and dads, your cultures or societies. And the external trigger is clicking on a wound in the nervous system, which is why you go from 0 to 100. When we are triggered, we have either not brought to surface the wound and are cycling in it. And that is why we're triggered. So again, we're triggered because we either don't know what the wound is or we haven't healed the wound enough. Got it? Okay. And again, you might be a listener who doesn't know her or his wounds. Cool. Hang out with me. I can show you what they are. Or you haven't learned how to deal with it. Cool. Hang out with me. I can learn how to teach you how to do that. So let's talk about some of these. Take a breath and take a tool. So we've done spirit, ego, nervous system. Let's talk about taking a breath and tools. We'll do some of this today. The first step is take a breath. Why? Because the science shows us that when we're triggered, we're in what's called fight, flight, freeze. That's what FFF stands for. And when we're in fight, flight, freeze, when we're like triggered, like, oh, the body is in shutdown mode. The mind is in shutdown mode, and we can't respond. What's scientifically happening, and I'm not going to go into details today, but we're in what's called an amygdala hijack. The amygdala is a small little organ in your midbrain that holds onto the fight, flight, free from childhood, holds the trauma from your mother, your father, societal cultural wounding. So how do you get around the amygdala hijack? Tool number 1, take a breath. I don't just mean any breath. I mean a breath right into the base of your diaphragm. So we'll practice it right now. If you can, close your eyes and inhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. Exhale for 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep cycling with that. Deep, long breath in. Slow, long breath out. Beautiful. Go ahead and open your eyes whenever you're ready. Just that diaphragm breathing, even for 1 second, but repetitively, it starts to take the blood around the amygdala hijack so you can think. Now, because you're the mind, you can take it right back to the amygdala, like, oh, that person again. But the more you practice that, that's tool number 1, is deep breath, okay? So the more you have, the better you are when it comes to tools. So today, I'm going to teach you a few. You want to learn more, come hang out with me more. And the more tools you have, the more you can step out of the trigger, okay, and get your power back. Tool number 1, take a breath and keep repeating the breath. And each tool is repetition, 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 repetition. The more you breathe, the easier it's going to get. Tool number 2, we have to keep reminding ourselves that whatever I'm triggered about, my husband, my boss, my coworker, it's always the past. So tool number 2, I have to keep reminding myself, the reason I am triggered is not because of my husband, not because of my kid, not because of the laundry's out of sorts, not because the dog is running around the house with the zoomies. The trigger is always the past. The reason I am triggered is the past. We have to say that over and over and over again. So between the breath and reminding myself that it's the past, the more I'm going to be able to access what the story is. Tool number 3. Oopsie, back up. We have to take the focus off the external. So if it's your boss, your partner, whoever, you have to stop blaming them, at least for you to start to access the wound. The ego will want you to be convinced that it's your dog, your husband, your boss, your kid, but there's no solution there. You have to be willing to say, I am the denominator. I know this person is doing that, but it's not anything to do with this person. It's got something to do with me and the ego that I have. So you have to do your best to take the story off of them and be willing to go into it a bit deeper. Okay, great. Keep breathing. Let's go to tool number 4. Tool number 4 is journaling. When you start journaling about the pain and you ask yourself, where does this pain come from? And you're willing to go further back, then we can start to identify that it's an inner child screaming. If you've never done inner child work, that's very normal. If you come hang out with me on the 20th or 27th, or come to my group work, I can show you what that inner child is. That's the benefit of intuition. Once you start to see the inner child, then we can start healing it. Okay? And maybe listening to this, you know it's your inner child. Maybe that's where you need to begin. It's never your husband. It's never your kid. What's the next tool I got for you? The next tool is to work with your inner child. Here's the magical tool. It's to start working with the Divine Mother. Because when you start to work with the Divine Mother, you start to realize the lie that the nervous system has said. Because the Divine Mother only sees you as whole, only sees you as complete, and only sees you as divine magic. Close your eyes if you wish. With your eyes closed, I would love you to open up to the idea that there is a version of you who does not have this trigger. There is a version of you that does not have this nervous system response. And this trigger is like your gateway back home to spirit. And when you enter spirit, you have more money, you have more health, you have more joy. And this trigger is here to help you find that. As you hold the Divine Mother in your heart, you hold the bridge back home. Take a few breaths here. Now, when you're ready, go and open your eyes. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that helped you even just a little bit. I am so excited to work with you the 20th or 27th or join one of my groups. the best work I do with the Divine Mother to help you find her essence where you don't have that pain, that is best done with me in a live setting, not in pre-recorded. So I would love to have you. I'm sending you so much love, and thank you so much for being part of my family. I'll see you super soon.